Hey guys, what is going on? It is Brooke or the Undead DM, and I'm back at it again with the final video on the Shaman class called Witch Medicine. Now, if you guys haven't seen my last video on the Shaman's base class and my general thoughts on the class, I will link that in the description below. Please go ahead and check that out first. And if you want, there are several other videos of the Shaman class if you want to check those out. Links will be in the description. But without further ado, let's get into quite possibly the most broken subclass of the entire Shaman class. So, the Witch Medicine is kind of the potion maker. They are similar to the alchemist subclass for the artificer, but like 10 times better. So, bonus proficiencies, you get proficiency in the medicine skill, and with one artisan's tools, specifically, you could choose between alchemist supplies or brewer supplies, and if you already have proficiency in the medicine skill, you gain expertise in it. And I think the ability that gets the class to its legendary status is the following. At level 2, you get the ability Spell Brewing. You can brew tinctures to hold and store your spirit guide's powers. With 10 minutes of light activity, you can use alchemist supplies or brewer supplies to magically create a potion containing a spell of first level or higher granted by a spirit guide you are channeling. The spell must have a casting of one action or one bonus action, and you can expend a spell slot of the spell's level or higher to imbue the potion with the spiritual magic. If the spell consumes any of its material components, you must expend those components as part of the brewing process. The potion created with this lasts until you finish a long rest, at which time it becomes inert, unless you expend a spell slot of the potion spell's level or higher to replenish its magic. Replenishing a potion will preserve its power until you finish your next long rest. You can replenish any number of potions this way, simultaneously expending a separate spell slot for each potion. You do not need to be channeling the spirit guide that grants a potion spell or touching the potion to replenish it, but you must be on the same plane as the potion. As an action, a creature holding or carrying one of your potions can drink it to immediately cast the potion spell as part of the same action without requiring any of the spell's normal components. The drinker is treated as the spell's caster and chooses the spell's targets. Though the spell uses your spellcasting ability modifier, spell attack bonus, and spell save DC for the duration. If the spell requires concentration, the drinker is responsible for maintaining concentration for the duration. Now, normally in these videos, I would go over the entire subclass first, and then go over what I think are broken about these, or what are bad about these. But in this case, I'm going to elaborate why this is so terrible. So, this is an entire ability similar to the spell storing item that artificers have. Artificers get that at like 9th level. They get that really late in their spell progression, or in their level progression. Shamans get this at level 2. Artificers allow them to store pretty much any spell as long as it doesn't require concentration, I believe. This allows you to store any spell of first level or higher. Not first level, not second level or lower, not third level or lower, first level or higher. But you have to expend your spell slot, I hear you saying. Read this again. 10 minutes of light activity. During a long rest, you can spend at maximum 2 hours of light activity and 6 hours of no activity, i.e., sleeping, in order to gain the benefits of a long rest. Do you know what you could do in this time? If you are, let's say, a 10th level spellcaster, you can put as many spells as you want into potions for the 2 hours that it takes you. So you could put all of your spell slots into potions, hand them off to every player, and then once your light activity ends, you just regain all your spell slots back. You have effectively doubled your spell slots and spells for the day by just doing nothing, by just normal rest casting. you can essentially have an infinite amount of spells at your disposal every day. It's not an infinite, but it is essentially a back pocket. Oopsie daisy, I ran out of spell slots. Here's a spell that I forgot about for every person. Now this little thing right here. If the spell requires concentration, the drinker is responsible. What this means is that you can make, at this point, you can make 3 to 4, maybe 5 potions of conjure animals. Now, what's interesting is that it says here that it has to be a spell of first level or higher, and it must have a casting time of an action or a bonus action. Conjure animals conjures 8 CR 1/4 creatures, and it requires concentration, and it takes an action to cast. Meaning, if there's 5 potions, and everyone drinks theirs at the same time, and you just cast conjure animals, you have now taken a normal, manageable 8 creatures to a multiple of 5. Because now there's 4, possibly multiplied by 6, since there's probably 5 other people who have just drank it. So now the DM has to worry about 5 to 6 players and all of their summons, and they all concentrate on their own version of the spell. And each person can dictate its own creatures. Unless we all just kind of simultaneously agree about what animal to summon. This can allow anybody to just have a concentration spell. The fighter wants haste, here you go. The barbarian wants haste, here you go. The sorcerer wants to unalive himself in a group of kobolds using the slow spell by drinking it in the middle of them, go right ahead. He can do that. And all this required was 10 minutes of light activity. And it doesn't even say that you can't create multiple potions, but it does say you can create a potion, which implies that you can only make 1 potion per 10 minutes. Meaning in a 2-hour light activity session, you can make 12 different potions. 12 different concentration spells, and if you just break concentration or one of your allies breaks concentration on their spell, no biggie, just grab the other potion out and drink it. And boom, you got your concentration spell back. It's essentially infinite concentration spells, because now everybody can have a concentration spell in their back pocket with no restrictions. Pretty much anything. That's fun. Anyway, moving on. At 6th level, you get Tincture Stockpile. When you replenish 1 or more of your potions upon finishing a long rest, you can replenish some of their magic without expending spell slots. The combined level of the spells contained within the potions replenished this way cannot exceed your shaman level divided by 3. For example, as a 6th level shaman, you can replenish up to 2 spells worth of potions without expending spell slots. Either 1 potion containing a 2nd level spell, or 2 potions containing a 1st level spell. When you replenish potions in this way without expending spell slots, you can still replenish the magic of any number of other spells at the same time, provided you expend a spell slot for them, as per the spell brewing rules. So this essentially allows you to divide your class's level by 3 to a minimum of 1, and you can replenish spells, like spell potions, that have a spell level equal to that number, or lower, or higher, depending on what it is. So if you're a 20th level shaman, and you have, let's say, like 4 potions out, you can replenish, rounded down, 6 levels of spells, meaning you can replenish 2 haste potions that your fighter and barbarian have. You can replenish like an aid spell that your cleric has on hand, and then a 4th level death ward, or possibly something else like circle of, I don't know if circle of death is a 4th level spell, but any other 4th level spell Hell, you could probably put polymorph in one of them, since you're one of your spells that you get with one of your spirits is polymorph. So essentially being able to lessen the amount of spell slots required to replenish your potions, i.e. the possible one downside, is just completely gone. Because the one downside that this class has was, yeah, you could have multiple concentration spells, but if they weren't used and you want to keep using those spells, you either have to wait for them to go away after the long rest completes, and then make some later, or you use your spell slots to replenish them, and then you just get them back anyway. So this way you can't make more potions, since you most likely spent all of the rest of your spell slots doing so. So it was kind of a trade-off. Now it's just like, okay, neat, I can make maybe 2 additional potions, and I'll be just fine. And there's no limit on how many times you can do it either. So if you take multiple long rests, it's not like once per long rest or whatever. Like, yeah, it's implied when you finish a long rest, since the potions only go away after a long rest. But this isn't like a number of times per day. It's just permanent. It just happens. At 10th level, you get Witch Remedy. You always have the Dispel Magic and Remove Cursed spells prepared. They don't count against the number of spells a day, and when you cast them as a ritual, they become touch, and they can only target one creature. So essentially, you're nerfing a spell by nerfing its range and the number of targets by just for no reason. Okay. Sublime Elixir at 14th level. Your talent for imbuing creatures with spiritual. I know. Whatever. Flavor text. When you imbue a potion with a spell that requires concentration, you could choose to use the feature to create a Sublime Elixir. When a creature drinks one of your Sublime Elixirs, that spell it contains lasts for its full duration without requiring any creature to maintain concentration on it. Once a creature drinks one of your Sublime Elixirs, it cannot benefit from another until it finishes a long rest. Or finishes a rest. If the last Sublime Elixir it drank contained a spell of 5th level or lower, it cannot benefit from another one until it finishes a short or long rest. Otherwise, it cannot benefit from another Sublime Elixir until it finishes a long rest. If a creature drinks a Sublime Elixir while it cannot benefit from one, it must maintain concentration on the potion spell as per the normal spell casting rules. So, on top of being able to create multiple concentration spells, now, all those conjure animals, yeah, all of them now require no concentration. So let me paint a picture for people who don't understand why this isn't completely fucking busted. Number one, you're giving a class that typically doesn't have access to spellcasting, like a fighter or a barbarian, access to the ability to essentially cast a spell with concentration without requiring concentration, completely bypassing the barbarians. You can't cast spells and you can't concentrate on spells restriction. Now, give this to a class that can already use spells, like, say, a cleric or a druid. Now, the druid, let's say you give a conjure animals one to them, now you can give the druid a conjure animals potion, they can drink it as an action on their turn, and if it just so happened to be a sublime elixir, because guess what, there's no limit on how many sublime elixirs you can make either, you could just give the druid a sublime elixir, they drink it, they cast conjure animals, and poof, there's 8 animals, and then on their turn, they could just do it again. Like, yeah, sure, they don't require concentration, and they may only be able to cast a bonus action spell on their turn, because drinking the potion requires an action. However, they now have whatever the highest you can get with conjure animals is, I believe it's 64, because it's 8 to start, and then it doubles each time. So it's 8, 16, 32. So I think the highest you can get is actually 32. But Regardless, that's a lot of animals. And now, what you have. So, yes, I was correct. It is 4 times the number of creatures at ninth level. So, you can create 8 beasts of challenge laying 1/4 or lower. So, 8, 16, 32, 64. So now, they have 64 plus 8 creatures. That's 72 creatures that one druid has to keep track of. Now you do that to yourself as well. You drink a sublime potion of conjure animals, and now you have 72 animals that you have to keep track of. Yeah, you could use horde rules, or you can do what most people do, where they just say, oh, these creatures, we take the average roll and we determine what this is, yada yada, like everyone else does whenever they use conjure animals or large horde spells. Yes, you could. And you can also have the DM say, just put down one token, and that will just be every single one. And I'll just pool all their health together, and then however many times it takes damage, that's how many die. Fine. However, here's the thing. If I know this rule correctly, there is no rule against a creature being grappled more than once. There is not. There is no rule that states that a creature cannot be grappled more than once. So if you have, say, 72 constrictor snakes, or however many constrictor snakes you can get with a conjure animal spell of 3rd level, and then a 9th level casting of conjure animals, you can have a lot of constrictor snakes, and they all can take the grapple action, since they all get their own action, and that could be an equivalent of 72 grapple checks that now your DM has to roll 72 of to figure out if any of them hit. And also, fun fact, grappling and grapple breaking requires you to use an action to break the grapple. Meaning if you are under the effects of multiple grapples, you don't break all grapples with one action. You only break one grapple with one action. Meaning if even half of those snakes grapple you, you now have roughly 30 grapple checks you have to make, wasting your action the entire time, and you just can't do anything. And that is on, at minimum, 2 people. If your entire party is spellcasters, or if even most of your party is spellcasters, you can be looking upwards of 300 creatures that you as the dungeon master have to keep track of, and they as players have to keep track of. All for what? Doing what you normally do and rest cast. This feature is insanely busted. How would I change it? Spell brewing. Make it require your entire long rest. Your entire one. Say, while using this action, while you take a long rest, you can perform this instead of taking a long rest, and you still get the benefits of a long rest. And you also don't gain any exhaustion levels, but you can only create a number of potions equal to some number. Maybe half of your shaman level, maybe up to your charisma modifier, since this is a charisma caster, maybe proficiency bonus number of potions. And also make it so that if the potion requires concentration, the creature has to concentrate on it like it already does. And say that a creature can only drink one a potion per short or long rest. This way, creatures can't just double up on potions. And as for the tincture, if we just change it to how many potions you can have, sure, we can probably keep it like this. And Witch Remedy is just useless, just change it entirely. But Sublime Elixir, make it so that if a creature were to drink a Sublime Elixir, they cannot cast any spells that require concentration afterwards. For the entire duration of the spell, that they drank from the Sublime Elixir makes so they cannot cast any other concentration spells until the effect ends. This allows them to really think, if I'm out of spell slots for any spells that have concentration that are actually worth using, like slow, then I could just drink this potion and at least get some benefit. Don't lock them out of spellcasting entirely, just lock them out of concentration based spellcasting for the entire duration. I think that's the only fix it really needs. Just say, you can imbue a potion to make it a sublime potion, and if it has the concentration quality, they don't have to concentrate on it, but for the duration of the spell's effect, they cannot cast any concentration spells. Which for a lot of spells is only 1 minute, which is basically till the end of combat. Because at that point, roleplay kind of goes a lot faster than combat, so it's just going to end by the time combat ends anyway. So, overall, this is one of the best subclasses. It is literally broken for the Shaman. I don't know how this slipped past playtesting. I really don't know who thought this was a good idea, in all honesty. I don't know who looked at this subclass and went, yes, we've made 4 mediocre subclasses. Let's just make the last one absolutely batshit bonkers broken by giving it 2 abilities that essentially invalidate every single martial class and even half caster class in the entire game, even more than we already do. That's a great idea. Sure, you're essentially rising the floor of any class by giving them one of your tinctures, but if all the martials are starting at a 10, and all the half-casters are starting at a 15, and all the spellcasters are starting at a 30, raising the skill floor of classes across the board by 10 doesn't close the gap at all. It just doesn't. This final subclass is actually the one I've been struggling the most with in terms of wording, because making spells into potions is interesting and useful, but allowing marshals to use them and letting them have some benefits of spells without needing to actually cast the spell is a bit complicated, because you can't make it so that marshals get all the benefit and that spellcasters only get some of the benefit without indirectly nerfing both, which is not good for the martial class specifically. Overall, if I had to put these subclasses into tiers, I think the top tier is the witch medicine. The second tier is probably totemism. And then directly in the middle is war chanting. Then below that is the sympath. And then below that is the exorcist. I think I might have misspoken in previous videos, but after reading it a couple more times for these videos, I think the exorcism subclass is one of the worst, and the sympath is right there, close to it. Totemism is one of the better ones, as is war chanting, but nothing will ever beat witch medicine. Even with its subpar 10th level ability, these 3 abilities of Spell Brewing, Tincture Stockpile, and Sublime Elixir carry the subclass. Absolutely carry it. But with that being said, I believe that will be the end of the Shaman overview, because honestly, the spells that it has aren't very good. From personal experience, they are not very good. I haven't found very many uses for any of these They're mostly thematic spells. They don't really have combat usages, and a lot of the combat usages that they might have are very limited and just overall not that good. If you guys want me to, I could go over those spells in another video. But with that being said, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more. And in the next episode, I might be going over another book, similar to how I did the Martialist Handbook. Or maybe I might go over more of Ross Leiser's work, as I have plenty of other stuff by Ross Leiser. But with that being said, I'll see you all in the next video. Latest.